The topic for this video is silence.
Mm-hmm.
Silence. We mentioned in the last segment, our last video, that it's very important when we've had kind of an emotional reaction that we give some time for it just to be quiet. Partly for people to collect themselves, maybe for us to collect our thoughts before we make a comment. There's always the tendency for people to fill the void, and the silence is a void. And I remember also in group where the person who started to speak and broke the silence usually says, it was very uncomfortable for the silence, and why is nobody talking? And we would kind of take turns of beating them up, of making sure that they knew that the silence was usually 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds of silence.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would go around and ask people in the group, what were you doing during the silence?
How uncomfortable did you become?
Or what did you think? Were you thinking of things that you would like to say, or comments that you'd like to make about what had just happened? Or you're just thinking of yourself, gosh, I am sometimes that upset, and I need to be consoled, and I am concerned about things, and whatever is going on in their head. There could be someone who's just doing a grocery list, in their head. It's like, this isn't their issue, and they're just being quiet and silent and working on other things. That doesn't happen a lot, but in group, I'm sure that it does.
I find, Michael, most of the time people are uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable, and that's part of that uncomfortableness. Usually brings up something that they're afraid of, that they maybe want to explore a little bit at a later date, but they're not quite ready. They're ashamed in some cases. So there's all kinds of levels, but they're generally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't find people doing grocery lifts at that time. Wishing they
this
had a
is just
drink,
for you to think maybe that they might be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the thing is that the silence is really valuable for people to have. And because they are collecting their thoughts, they may be thinking of something that they need to share with another person. Could be in a group, could be in a therapeutic relationship, could be with the physician, could be with a family member, it could be, I need to be able to process some of this stuff in the silence.
And more importantly, Michael, when the patient has passed, the silence can become critical because you're listening for something that isn't there or that isn't going to be there any longer. So you're waiting, and sometimes it's easier in the room when people are quiet, when someone has passed. Softly crying in the room. You might not even hear other people's responses, but there will be silence. There should be, out of respect for the patient, there should be silence.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, somebody asked me the other day, what was it like in the room? I believe you were part of the conversation as well. What actually happens at the moment of death? And I think that's the wanting and needing the silence is a critical point to that. Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, absolutely. I do remember that. Depending on a person's perspective and faith, they may be wondering, is this the soul departing? The energy force there's an energy force that's departing.
The room actually changes. It does change. But it was interesting because most people don't ask us that question. Most people are intimidated by it.
I think, Gail, what I'd like to do is I want to make this a standalone. I want to make this a standalone because there's so much that's happening in that room at that time.
Yes.
And I think that it would be valuable. So we're going to take it for the next segment.
Understood.